the cloud. And the next thing I'm going to do is share my browser. Not that one. Here we go. I think this is it here. How many copies do I have? Actually, let me do this real quick. There we go. All right, that looks proper. Okay, so and the recording is recording, right? Sorry, I lost the recording. Okay, yeah, it's recording. Okay, so welcome everyone to the March 9th iteration of the MicroProfile live Hangout. And this is a new dial-in. Obviously, you're here. So just tell all your friends about the new dial-in number. And this meeting is being recorded. And the recording, along with the chat, will be uploaded to YouTube. It is everyone's shared responsibility to take notes. So a link to the meeting minutes is in the chat. So please click on the link, add your name as a contributor, and help take notes. So again, thanks everyone. So I was trying to figure out the agenda for today. And we haven't had any discussion on the releases for a while, so I wouldn't mind discussing that a little bit, along with continuing the conversation that we had regarding the alignment. And I also added a note here I'll get to near the end. It's not critical, but I wanted to talk about the CN4J meeting minutes published. I mean, I was literally writing this just before the call, so I haven't gotten all the links and everything in yet. So let's see. So I guess with that, are there any other kind of critical items to cover?
Hey, John, this is certainly not critical, but the CN4J Alliance public folder, just ensuring that at least you and Will as chairs can have write access would be good.
Tanya, we have
yes.
Please interject here. We have you nicely sent a note about this on the MicroProfile and the Alliance discussion mailing list, and
yeah.
I created the folder
yep.
in MicroProfile external community folder. And are you meaning? Do you mean you created something else outside of the MicroProfile folder?
No. I once we get to this agenda item, I can show you. The question is, it's already there, and I uploaded the 2 PDF files in the name of Will, just because he didn't have privileges to upload. That public folder is set up for everyone to be able to view it, but not everyone can upload. So what I'm saying is here, maybe we should give privileges to Will for that folder to upload necessary files in the future.
Yes, and not only Will, but everyone that Jakarta working group will choose to collaborate with us on that.
We have this on the agenda, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's on the agenda. Yeah, that's what I was trying to. I was about to interject, David. Thanks. So we'll definitely get to that. I added it, and if while we're talking, if Amelia or Tanya want to add a link to that folder, that'd be awesome. Okay.
Sure.
So Edwin and I think Andy might want to discuss slightly separate issues, but service releases. So Edwin, you kind of have a link there regarding service releases.
Yeah, since we had a discussion a few weeks or months ago with Wayne Beaton on the mailing list regarding the service releases, I saw that this has now been fixed for Jakarta, and I was thinking, well, we should want this for MicroProfile, right? So I just would like to bring it in here, but I also see Emily and Kevin already picked up on it. So I think we're well on our way with adopting these changes for MicroProfile as well.
I don't know if Kevin, Emily, or Andy want to discuss service releases.
Yeah, I'll give a little bit more background there. So I did send out a note to the Jakarta community because we had I don't know, simplified and further refined, defined what a service release was from a Jakarta EE perspective. And so Emily and then Edwin, they were saying, well, you know, that sounds like good stuff. Should we be adopting those for MicroProfile? So there's a couple of aspects to this. One of them, I put in, excuse me, I put in issue number 29 for the EFSP, because what we did with the Jakarta EE update is to say, hey, this really should be part of the top level Eclipse Foundation specification process. So, you know, we created an issue against that, and it's still a work in progress. So in the meantime, we did the thing for the Jakarta EE specification process. So one of the things that we probably need to do is to log that, you know, a desire, a request that MicroProfile is also in favor of these type of changes at the EFSP, because that's where it really should be done. We're doing it at the JESP because we just had to make some progress, and because we had some pent up demand for the service releases. So that's one aspect of this that I think we probably need to you know, agree as a group that yes, MicroProfile, we do want to have the, you know, to simplify the service release definition and release process and add our 2 cents worth. I mean, I know both David and I are talking already in that issue, but you know, I don't know if we need something from the MicroProfile working group would also be in favor of this. You know, something just to give a little bit more. So since we don't have control over when the EFSP would get updated, and if we have service releases in MicroProfile that are looking to release under the EFSP, then maybe we do have to adopt something, you know, like what we did with Jakarta EE for service releases. I guess I'm just talking quite a bit. There's a lot of different aspects of this problem, and we have to decide, well, what do we need and when?
Yeah, and an important aspect of it is that the reason that we are able to do service releases without a vote is because we are not adding IP into these releases. So, you know, that we would have to be strict with that ourselves on the MicroProfile side of the fence as well to be able to do that.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
And I know, you know, we've got kind of separate discussions that are happening on some service releases for the MicroProfile part of it. They're related to this, but they're still separate because we've got different issues related to the GraphQL and Open API service releases that are being proposed. But they're, you know, it is kind of related because eventually we would have to adopt a more stringent view of what a service release is if we decide that we want to go this route.
I just want to comment on this issue you're showing here. I think the MicroProfile working group should look at this, and if you agree with what Kevin have written here, you should kind of endorse it and say, hey, this working group is behind this as well. Because the updates to the EFSP will be done in a way that all of the working groups that are working with specifications will be represented in some sort of forum to do these updates. So the more working groups that kind of is behind it, the faster it will go.
Andy already endorsed this, speaking from MicroProfile. And also I talked with Wim Burton, and he opened another issue and trying to look at a service release for the EFSP. This is what Kevin said about change from the Eclipse Foundation release process. So, and then he has kind of penciled in some days, and he said he will reach out to different working groups as well. But I think for now, I think is for the short term kind of the operation would be good to adopt what Jakarta EE has done. basically create our operation guide.
So I do have a question. When we talk about MicroProfile endorsing this, does this mean, I mean, do we want to have, you know, a formal thing where we all kind of vote to change the charter and agree as the steering committee that we would like it changed, or just community members plus wanting it?
Yeah, so we're not looking to update a charter.
Yeah, this is operational
The
guidelines.
This
You
is
would
the
need to-
operation guide. All right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know if we would need to update the charter or not, because we don't currently have a derivative of the EFSP. So we wouldn't, this would make one.
Right, well, yeah, it depends on how you define this, because I think we were talking about the EFSP update, and if we go that route, then we wouldn't have to update our charter or create a MicroProfile specific process.
Okay, if we need to do, that is correct. It was, the timelines are, I guess, maybe the question, because
Yes,
if we needed to do service releases before that happens, and that may take a while, then we would need to create an MS MicroProfile specification process, put it there.
right.
Yeah.
And we, hold on, I'm not finished. Please let me finish. And we may decide we want to do that anyway, just in case any similar situations come by. We don't need to update, you know, because right now our charter says we use the EFSP, so we would need to have the charter say we use the MicroProfile specification process. So we may decide that we just want to do that anyway, because if there are other changes we want to make to our specification process, we would already be set up to do that.
Yeah.
It's one thought.
We did want to make the one change, right, about if everyone votes, then we can shorten the 2 weeks, right, with a minimum of 1 week.
Right.
So that's an outstanding change that we're kind of waiting to make. We just haven't done that yet.
Yeah. Just to slip this in briefly, if we are going to update the charter, what I would want to slip in a change that says that the community representative has an alternate, like all the other representatives do.
A proxy.
Not a proxy, an alternate. Do not change my words, because they are very specific.
Yeah.
Not a proxy, an
Alternate.
alternate.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So on top of, sorry.
Yeah, it's not for now, but that is another point on the list on the agenda. So maybe we can get into that later.
Right. So on
Yeah.
top of this, David asking for the timeline for Eclipse Foundation update. So John, if you click on the doc, so I put the issue 33. That's when is kind of create the GitHub issue and track on this change. So it's 21st April. He's trying to kind of reach approval.
So I apologize for interrupting, but what I'm going to try and do is maybe cap this at the bottom of the hour and continue with our the options document and the survey discussion that we had last week. Does that sound okay to everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thanks everyone. So we got about 9 more minutes on this topic. Right? Sorry, Emily, to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's I'm done. So basically, I'm trying to say the when has kind of the timeline for like updating EFSP for the service release process. If you go down to the bottom of it, and the timeline is trying to get things done like at the end of April.
Yeah, but you can tell that he's already way behind because it says form committee of February 9th. We're
Right.
already a month past that.
Yeah, good point. So it's yeah, that's his original kind of the
Yeah.
deadline, etc. Yeah.
I wouldn't want to skip that first thing of form the committee, because I think that we do need a committee to be discussing EFSP changes.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't like, so I guess I made my point. I wouldn't want to rush that. I think we should have a committee that discusses these things.
Right.
That is
Yeah.
what I was going to interject to say. This is something that the committee needs to work on without rushing it. So
And there
now,
isn't the committee. I think that's one of the things that, There isn't a committee currently.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what we suggest is still is still good suggestion. Basically, we'll look at our MicroProfile OPS operation. Okay,
Well-
that's all.
Okay, so there's two aspects to that, Emily. So
Uh-huh.
you mentioned about the operations guide.
Uh-huh.
I think we do need that because we've come up with several things that we have wanted to do, to explain how we do releases. And I think we need a separate operations guide. And then I think that we should start like what David was saying. Why don't we start doing a derivative of a microprofile specification process, even if right now we say, yep, the EFSP is good, just so that we have a document that we can then update later.
Yeah.
Right.
We can
Okay.
take John's point about the 7-day short vote, provided all votes are accounted for. We can add in the service definition, we may remove it later, but we can add it there. Having it there will help the conversation, because when it goes to the board, it could go to the board saying, both Jakarta E and MicroProfile have already adopted language like this in their specification process.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So it's going to take a couple of months probably for us to update, and maybe even longer to vote on the MPSP, right? Or to create. And so
Quick.
I don't
I'm
think
trying
it
to be
should take that
pragmatic.
long.
Okay.
I think we're going to be done in June.
We
No.
have a version we didn't adopt, but we do have a version that has language
Correct.
worked out for the 7-day period. So we would just add the service definition to that version and then vote on it. We would need to update our charter. That would be, we would have to vote for the two of them.
Yep.
We
But-
have a
Yeah.
one.
We could put them in the same vote too. We could say, here's the changes that are happening. MicroProfile specification process, update the charter to point to the specification process. If we do want to do the alternates thing, we throw that in there and say, there's the list of changes, vote.
Okay. I mean, I think it's worth doing. With the 5 minutes we have left, I guess, is this within an acceptable timeline for those who are trying to push a spec out?
For March, for me.
If we're talking a couple
Well,
months.
Right.
I would say yes, because I think we have a different issue with the specs that are attempted to be pushed out for MicroProfile. Because I think the specification, the service releases that are trying to be pushed out right now, they don't adhere to our definition of a service release. So I think we gotta straighten that out. And I don't know, is Philip on this call? Yeah. So I know he's replied to me on at least one of the threads that he was saying, okay, I can do a minor release, and he was going to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, it's done already,
Okay.
and I'm busy with the second one, the GraphQL one.
Okay.
By the way, Phil, you're like rocking those emails, rocking them. You're like on fire.
Yeah, no, that's service.
Right. So
then-
the other, sorry. So
No.
the other thing is, before all these process in place, we do have some other solution. Like if we do go ahead to do the service release for all of the spec under MicroProfile 4.0, we have kind of the freedom to go through exception route. So basically, if the working group is saying, okay, that's an exception, you don't need to go to the ballot, and then we can still do that.
We lost John.
No,
Oh.
I'm here. Sorry. My browser wants me to sign back in for some reason, so I just stopped sharing my screen while I do that.
Emily, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I finished. Basically, I'm trying to say is even though we don't have the this formal process for service release, we can still we have the freedom to go through exception route for the specs has gone through the formal kind of successful release. For example, if we decide to do for tolerance like 3.0.1 release, and we could go, if it's just like a bug fix and etc., we could go through an exception route thing, like ask a working group to give an exception, not to going through ballot and etc.
I guess I don't know what you mean by the exception. If we go through this exercise of updating or creating an MPSP, then don't we already have that covered for a service release?
We do. I think his earlier question is kind of what time when we can have this kind of this process in place.
Oh, I see. I see. So if it,
I said
so
just
if the ballot,
yeah.
So if the ballot was pushed out, then
yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Sorry.
I think probably we have enough discussion on this.
So what are the next steps? Do we update to the general forum with what comes next to prepare everyone and the ecosystem to know that we're thinking about this and the work will start? How do we proceed?
I think we have to dust off the existing MPSP draft we had from a while back and use that as a baseline.
Yeah, that is one page. That's going to be quick.
Dust that off and have the discussion. So does someone want to dust it off? Find the link. All right, I'll dig around. I'll see if I can find the old MPSP. All right, and then we can have the discussion in the forum.
Thanks, John.
Yep. Yeah, thanks. And Kevin's going to send it to me. Okay, Kevin's action item is to assign the action item to me. Okay.
I'm trying to help with the minutes.
Thank you, sir. I'm just kidding. It's having fun. Okay.
You're not allowed to smile, John. Knock it off.
Yeah, exactly.
I already found it. I placed a link.
Yeah, just an FYI, and I don't really want to have the discussion today on this just because I think we need to get to the other topic, which I think is still under here somewhere. The CN4J Alliance meeting minutes have been published. The folder's here. Take a look at it. I just prefer, if it's about the goals, to have the discussion per the email I sent to the working group email alias, and I ran out of time to send it to the Google group this morning. But have the discussion about the goals themselves in the CN4J Alliance mailing list, right? So that's just a request.
But you know, my recommendation on this one is that when we send the updates the minutes to the MicroProfile community forum, we need to say subscribe and add that link of the CN4J for discussions. And then I will submit a Git issue or a request changing the description of the mailing list. At the beginning, the mailing list was created to be, should the conversation happen in that mailing list? And now it needs to be adjusted to, this is where the communities come together to discuss. There will be no extra forums, nothing else, one mailing list. So we need to do two things. I can own one item.
Well, let's have the discussion. I apologize because I'm just trying to get to the other discussion. Let's have this discussion in the group. I'll send a link, like I said, to the working group thread, and then we can have the discussion there. Sorry, just trying to cap the amount of time. It's just an FYI. Okay, so let's see if we can then go off to, I'll tell you what, Emily, you want to give kind of a final status on the voting Twitter voting poll?
Yeah, if you click on the link, go to the Amelia put a link there. So it's about 62% voted yes. I think if you go to the second dot.
This one? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So 60% voted yes, and both 19 voted unsure or no when they want to adopt like a Jakarta namespace. So basically, it's more than majority, 62% of people are going to migrate from JavaX to Jakarta namespace next year. So it's however, the votes is 129. It's not many, so which is a little bit I'm a bit disappointed, and only 129. However, it does reflect people are willing to adopt a Jakarta namespace. So with that, I think is and also the kind of the previous questionnaire. So it's kind of people are trying to kind of align with the Jakarta namespace. So it's if you go back to like as we said last week, I think is we have a lengthy discussion about when to align with the Jakarta EE. So I think is kind of I haven't heard anybody object to align with the Jakarta EE9. So what I think is what we could do is kind of we could do like align with the Jakarta EE9, and then the other conversation is about whether to maintain Jakarta JavaX namespace or not. So with this, I started another mailing list conversation, etc., and trying to see what people think. I think it's I haven't heard anybody saying they don't care about Jakarta namespace, and also is David suggests to create kind of some like voting and etc. So. Also in last week the conversation we said okay, if we want to vote and maybe we want to like let people to write down their name as well. So with that I went through a kind of prototype and etc. and create a survey monkey and also doodle. If you sorry John, if you go back to the minutes there, so I created a survey monkey basically is just one question there. The only thing is that like for this one you won't be able to note down their name and etc. So this is but we can use this one to see whether you are happy with the kind of options, and then whether we still go ahead with a vote and etc. So basically the question is what do you think a MicroProfile release should do? So the first one is basically is perform 5.0 in June release align with the Jakarta E9 and also maintain the MicroProfile 4.x, so JavaX namespace. So the second one is just go with Jakarta EE9 and stop maintaining a 4.x namespace. The third one basically is ignore Jakarta EE9 and this year. So that's kind of three options. I think because we want to get a community to vote, probably is kind of we don't want like some implementation details we don't really need to put in there.
Well, one thing that's missing here is the one option that we added a little bit late, B1, that basically says 5.0 would be a namespace only release, right? AKA Jakarta EE9, right? Very similar. So the two would align being that. And that would mean that MicroProfile 4x could continue to deliver features if we wanted to during that time.
What I put in here, I meant like 5.0 is directed just namespace change. Maybe I make it clearer. So basically 5.0 is we are going to do it ASAP. So that would be a namespace only change. And then is in this case like 4.0 and 5.0 have exactly same thing. The only difference is the namespace change.
See, although I agree with that, Emily, the way that I would look at that, John, is that the namespace change, or if we continue it, that's an implementation detail. And I think what we're really asking, and it's not in the question, but I think the question ought to say, what should we do in 2021? Because it's really saying, what, you know, what should our immediate plans be for MicroProfile? And then if we do this with MicroProfile 5.0, to support Jakarta EE9 and the Jakarta namespace, then down the road, maybe we'll decide that, okay, 5.x, we're going to continue to update it, or no, we're saying, nope, that's only a namespace change and we're going to do MicroProfile 6.
So we have to come up with these options with the assumption that we can actually deliver them then in 2021. So when we talk about actually delivering on a MicroProfile 5 with the namespace change, that's going to imply there has to be a compatible implementation before it can release a spec and TCKs, and someone's going to have to do all that work across all the projects.
Yes.
And right now, most of that is small rye, to be honest.
But
And I don't think Red Hat can sign up to do all of that work
by
So-
by
June.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we already discussed last week that, and I think Roberto put it nicely when he's concerned on who will do the work. When I see June release linked to anything here, I cringe and I feel very uncomfortable because we don't, as a project, we don't say things and don't deliver them. We need to be so careful on anything. So can we maybe put this kind of questions in the survey folder and rewrite, because it makes me cringe personally.
Proposal, rather than get into details on what flavor of supporting the Jakarta namespace, I think Kevin kind of hit it on the nail on the head with this comment that we really should just be, do we want to do that this year? And I think if we can get a vote on that, yes, we want to adopt the Jakarta namespace this year in 2021 and just get a binary vote, yes or no. I think that's a good accomplishment. And then we can, figure out exactly when and how based upon, well, various details such as
Big details.
I didn't say small, I said various details, based upon implementations and all this, because all those things will affect timeline. And so, we can vote to do it. That would give the projects permission to start converting over. If they want to do releases of various 4X, they want to do Java X releases, they can. We're not saying you can't, right? So we wouldn't be putting that in the proposal. But it would give everyone the green light that they can go ahead and start working towards the Jakarta namespace, and we can just see how long it takes us to pull it off.
So what this means to me, and then Roberto, I saw you join, so you might have some comments, but what this means to me is we're working towards that in 2021. And in the meantime, we still have other specs, service releases or otherwise, like MicroProfile Health 3.1, if I remember correctly, all want to do releases. And in my opinion, those should happen under 4.x. So we should continue to evolve 4.x. And I know this is counter to last week's discussion, but we have to deliver, I think, those specs. I prefer not to do both at the same time, right? Have 5.0 focus on the namespace. Let specs that are ready to release something release under 4.x. And then we can move towards a feature release like 6, which is option B1. And sorry, Roberto, go ahead, and then let's get feedback from others.
Sure. I'll have to say there are a couple of things that are leaving me a little bit uncomfortable here. So one is, and I brought it up multiple times, is about June release. I mean, we seem that we box ourselves together in this June release, and we don't even know what we're going to do. So how can we think about timelines for June? So let's just forget about the timelines for now and try to figure out what we want to do first. And second, that's the thing that's probably bothering me the most right now is I don't think that when I think I was even one of the first persons that proposed to have gather feedback from the community, but having the final decision or having like a super majority on this on a simple survey, that just seems to be, I don't know. I don't think that's right. I mean, because we know that, and we've seen that from a Twitter poll, right? That we only have like a handful of responses. So are we going to base like this decision on a survey with like 200 responses, where a simple majority wins for like 55 or 57% or whatever? I mean, that's especially because, and also we have to remember that who's voting doesn't have the entire information. So they might say, hey, yes, I would like to move to these year or whatever, but we are actually hiding the implementation details like we were mentioning earlier, right? And of course, this doesn't really matter for the end user, but it matters for us because it might not even be possible for us to actually keep that proposal if you're not able to pull that off, right? So that for me, that makes me a little bit uncomfortable that we're just putting this in the hands of the end user while they're not. Well, I'm not trying to call them ignorant, but I don't think that they don't have the entire information to make that decision. And I'm sorry if maybe I misunderstood in saying that this was just going to be one extra piece of information, but at least for what I understood, it was going to be used as a final piece of information to make a decision saying, okay, we have the super majority, so we'll go this way. And I don't agree that we should leave that decision as a simple survey as yes or no.
We will combine the three questions, Roberto, but really good observation. The three, there are two questions, two polls, and then this one, and they're together, not separately, together. They will.
It's not about the question. It's about, I mean, we don't even have a representative. So let's say something.
I heard you. Can I ask it? Can I answer? Can I respond?
Sure.
So Amelia got to respond. So I personally, at least for me, I'm not making my choice based upon the poll. The poll is positive, but ultimately, I think, the points that Dmitry made last week are the reasons that I'm voting that I would want us to see us do the change. Specific, and also the conversation we had with like Bruno, for example, where, we asked Bruno, do you plan to switch to the Jakarta namespace? His answer was, no, we got a lot of stuff to do. That's not even on our radar. Unless there are new features in there, we're not going to do it. And I asked the question, if we added do the new features have to be in Jakarta? If we added new features in MicroProfile, would that get you to move from the JobX to Jakarta namespace? Yes, that would probably do the trick. And then I asked the follow-up question, but if we also release those same features under the JavaX namespace, would that eliminate your urgency to move to the Jakarta namespace and you would stay in the JavaX namespace? Well, yes, of course we would, because we have a million things to do. So basically, that kind of confirms what I already know of people in general anyway, which is given the opportunity to delay doing something painful, they'll delay it as long as they possibly can. And if our industry drags our feet on this Jakarta namespace switch, everybody's going to be stuck in this suspended animation of I'm waiting for you to do the namespace. Well, I'm waiting for you to do the namespace. Well, I'm waiting for that person to do the namespace change. And everyone's waiting on everybody. And this whole thing dies on the vine because eventually it'll drag on so long to where the fact that it's taken such a long time, people will start using that as a reason why it's a bad idea to do the namespace change. Ultimately, groups like ours aren't here to follow users, we're here to lead them. So I 100% agree with your sentiment that we shouldn't do things based upon entirely what users tell us to do.
So basically in the end, the survey is, or this final survey, it's pointless. Why are we going to do that?
It's a data.
I mean, I think we already have plenty of data, and it seems that a lot of us has already. One of the things that, and I think, that we have plenty of discussion, and sometimes we just have to agree to disagree. I believe that most of us already have their own opinion. It's going to be like super, super hard to change anyone's opinion at this point, right?
Well,
But we just need to make a decision.
I mean, I don't know that that's true, but I was on the dual releases path very hardcore in the previous meetings, and changed my mind last meeting based upon continued statements from
Sure, but you have your opinion now, and probably you're not going to change it now.
Well, again, I said that's not something that I appreciate because I actually did change my opinion. So, no.
What I then want to know, because I heard just a few minutes ago that small array is probably, Red Hat is not going to change small array for the changes for the Jakarta namespace.
No, that's not what I'm saying. So we never said anything like that. So now talking directly about that implementation detail, which we're not talking a while ago, is where we at this point the small rights covers most of the implementations that are using to do the compatible certification requests for doing the releases for MicroProfile. And what we're asking here is for help. So if we want to move forward with this change, we don't have enough resources to do this work. And to be honest, I find it a little bit unfair that everyone else is pushing this change to us, and we have to do all these things on us without having any help. So I'll be gladly do the change. I'm just asking for help if we have to move forward. So if we come to a point where we say, hey, we have to support Jakarta namespace, and ultimately it's going to have to be the small implementation to have to do that work, I cannot compromise and say, hey, I'm probably not going to say, hey, I'm not going to have something on June or July or August, because I clearly don't know when I'm going to have that ready. So then that's why I'm saying that we have to decide this as a group. So if we want to move forward with this and want to move forward with the Jakarta namespace update, and we want to have small RAI to be used as a certificate, as a compatible implementations for the certificate request, we need help. Now, if there are other vendors or other implementations wants to move forward and come up and give their implementations to be certified instead of small RAI, that's fine. Then we'll definitely come later and do that when we're able to do that. But right now, I cannot compromise on a day to have all that work ready. That's just it.
Roberto, you are right.
Okay.
Question I have here, Roberto. So basically, if you are short in resources to move to Jakarta namespace, right? So the same problem, even maybe worse, will happen. Then you will need to support both branches, Java, JavaX, and Jakarta, right? So if
but I'm
going
to have that problem right now, right? Because
I think
because right now, if we do like a MicroProfile 5 with Jakarta, I'll still have the old implementations that I have to support, right? So I'm going to have that problem.
Right. So I think it's actually I have been thinking about this is a kind of small RAI. I'm trying to help small RAI maybe is kind of utilize the Eclipse transformer. So basically directly transform the same implementation can certify against to support both Jakarta and JavaX namespace. So this is one thing. The other thing is the kind of I think it's for other implementations. For other implementations, I mean, like could support like Jakarta, maybe use different implementations like Liberty to certify maybe the Jakarta implementation or something like that. I think it's a kind of we have to join the force together and then trying to work towards a goal.
I agree. The only thing that I brought up this now is just that we don't want to have all the work. I propose it in other Hangouts in the past where we can either have people pushing PRs for us and we'll happily look into them and merge them, or we can split the implementations and specs between vendors, right? And we pick a couple of them, IBM picks another couple of them, Tommytrap picks a couple of them, Oracle picks another couple of them, Payara another one, and we split all the work. But I just think that it's unfair if we have to do all the work on small right, that's all.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's proposing that, so we don't need to, you know, I think it's understood, right?
Well, I mean, it's just, I agree, but we cannot just say, hey, let's move with the namespace.
Don't say June again, because I think, can you acknowledge Kevin's proposal where he said just in 2021 and where I backed that up? You keep saying June and a repeat on loop, but you haven't acknowledged.
I haven't said June. You forgot exactly what I said. My first intervention was say we keep boxing ourselves in the June release, and I think we should forget about dates. What was the first thing that I said?
No. That's what I'm saying. That's the first thing you said. You're still saying it, but no one's forcing June to be the date. You're the only one talking about June this much.
No. So maybe if you understood that if you understand that idea, that's not correct.
Okay. So it is definitely not correct that. So who has been proposing June? Don't say everyone. Give a name.
It's there. It's over there on the survey that we're looking exactly on our screen.
Emily proposed June. Hold on. Bellissima. Emily proposed June, and Kevin said what?
That's a test for me.
Yeah, no.
No, it's a test for everybody else.
You said
2021.
The proposal should be that we should just do the change in 2021. That was what your proposal was, correct?
Correct.
And I agreed with you that I thought it was probably more realistic for us to do it. And that was based upon the feedback from John that small right would get hit with a lot of work. And I said, I agree, that's a lot of work. So we should just make the vote to be, let's do this in 2021. We won't make any statements that we're going to stop delivering for. If specification projects want to deliver on Java X, they can. But the projects would have the ability to move forward with the Jakarta namespace. Doesn't mean that there's going to be a release anytime soon. Doesn't mean the release is going to be in June. Doesn't mean the release is going to be in November. We're going to give it a shot to do it this year. And it doesn't mean that the implementation has to be small right. The implementation could be Open Liberty or anybody else. Would that be suitable to you, Roberto?
But that's exactly what I said. I mean,
I know, but it had already been said before you spoke. It had already been said before you spoke, because I just wanted to make sure you acknowledge that, because no one's pushing you.
Man, I never said that no one is pushing me. I was just saying that we need to have a plan on how to support this. That's all.
Agreed. Just need to give yourselves time.
Yeah, I think we are all in agreement. I put the June, and I agree. Is maybe is kind of is better not to put the box. With what we have discussed, etc. And since like the community, we already asked the community whether they want to adopt a Jakarta namespace. That implicitly already told us, yes, we need to, like in 2021, we need to align with the Jakarta EE9. Do we still need to ask them again? I just wondering, probably we don't even need to ask them again. Like we just saying, okay, in 2021, we are going to align with the Jakarta EE9, and that's it. And at the moment, like we just a prototype to see how difficult it is, and then we are continuing with Java X work and etc. Is that kind of is that make sense?
No, I mean, if we are in agreement in that regard, then adding another survey is pointless.
That's right. We should just have a. And I don't think anyone's. What we had.
Or even another vote.
Well, no, we should have a vote, right? Because we can't backslide on this decision, right? We should have the vote, have the community vote. We can be the proposed language can be, as we've discussed, that we will do this in 2021. We will do our best to do this in 2021, and that can be the vote. Everyone can vote +1, -1, whatever they like to vote.
Yeah.
And the
I think it's got to be.
I think it's got to be a steering committee vote as opposed to a community vote.
No, I think it can be a community vote. I don't think it has to be a steering committee vote. I think it's important that these types of things, that the community understands that, you know, when I say community, I mean committers. I don't mean people who don't work on the project.
Okay.
You mean the Google group? You mean that everybody subscribed to the Google group, or you mean
Committer
the
vote, committers, people who,
Okay.
you know,
so just vote on the mailing list?
yeah, just a vote in the mailing list from the committers like we would do
Yes.
things
So-
any other way, right?
So
Not people who are not involved in the project and simply have an opinion, but
That's
people who are actually committers on the project.
Right. Okay. In this case, I think that makes sense because we already ask the public. We don't need to like repeat the same thing again. And with this vote, hopefully, like the committers all understand their kind of commitment and etc. At least they know what MicroProfile is heading towards.
Yeah.
From that sense, yeah, it makes sense.
And I want to point out, Emily, thank you so much for doing the draft on this to show us. It's just that you went ahead before using the drive. Can you use the drive that is in the agenda minutes, and then we just revise the question? And one thing that matters is that we will send the vote. We need to send the survey, which is SurveyMonkey is perfect, to the dev mailing list with the community forum opened. We need 2 emails. The committers for MicroProfile have a private mailing list, and every single time there is a vote, we move it so that everyone knows someone is being nominated or things. So we will do the both. So in the document, you're going to help us copy paste this information and delete.
We don't need to copy paste this. We just need to spend the time right now getting the vote text, and then we can send it immediately after this call.
Let's use Drive to do that.
No, does John share the minutes again? We can just type it right in the minutes. It should be not bigger than a sentence or two.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. So
I feel a little bit nervous about, I mean, we could say words like working towards or begin working on, but without any sense of how we get past the hard work, the heavy lifting of actually coming out with compatible implementations and TCKs, I'm worried about that.
I am cringing about that. Cringing.
Edwin,
The word is cringing. Mhm.
We don't have any sense of how we're going to accomplish that, right?
Nothing.
I just don't want to send out false flags, right? And telling everyone that, you know, I mean, it's a desire, right? Working towards words, you know, very loosely worded things I think might be okay, but nothing, you know, saying that 2021 is when we're going to deliver it when we don't have a sense of that.
We can just work toward, let's actually just finesse the language to where we're all happy with it.
So in the agenda, I have made a somewhat conclusion. I hope we all agree on, because that's a conclusion that I have taken about what is being discussed right now. I think we're there, but I think the discussion is now about who is going to do what. If we get past that, then we can release ASAP. And in the meantime, we can still develop on 4.x. I think that's the conclusion of what we are trying to accomplish here, right?
Yeah, innovation. At least
Can we share the minutes real quick so we can lock this down?
Sorry, I gotta log in
wrap.
again. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, hold on.
So Edwin, you mentioned innovation. I am concerned about innovation. Is that what you are saying also?
I don't know where I said innovation. I just was trying to window the work to getting the job done for the namespace change.
Yeah.
Before we can do innovation. So we can do innovation like the service releases that are being on the rails on the 4.x, and then whenever 5.0 is ready, we can move over the 4.x changes to 5, rebase, and then kind of drop support for 4.x or whatever, and then move on with 5 and later. So then we won't block current innovation. We are working on the 5.0 with the namespace change until there is a point that everything comes together and we can move on from there. That's kind of where I think everything is heading, at least when we get now past the discussion of who is going to do what.
Yeah, but I think we have the issue that we are doing then things in parallel, which will not be maintainable. We cannot develop on the 4.x and at the same time do the namespace change.
Yeah, well, we can if you do a proper branching strategy, probably, but then we have to be really.
Yeah, but we
Okay,
got
sorry, I got to step in here. We got 2 minutes left. Technically, we're over, but we can go to like 2 more minutes. But I don't know what we're gonna do
where
with
was that? Where was that proposed text?
I'm looking.
It has not been
Edwin?
written. It has not been written.
Oh, it hasn't been written.
All right.
No.
Well, I thought it was
I wrote the discussion of the. I wrote the conclusion in the top or in the upper top of the screen now.
here, but let's
Yes,
try to
sir,
lock
yeah.
down some actual text so we can.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Let me copy something and then we can directly work on it.
Sounds good.
It needs to be under releases, under the poll. Emily,
Anywhere, just post.
I'm doing.
yeah, like above there. What do you think MicroProfile should do? And this one needs to be that section.
And then oh, sorry, I let you go. You can direct it, yeah, change that. Okay, you can go ahead to do the change.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, is someone typing somewhere?
Yeah, here.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
He's working on it.
So
We are at the top of the hour. And then some.
Yeah, and talking about implementations, I'll talk internally with Don Folks. Maybe we'll be able to help with Jakarta namespace MP5 implementation.
Okay, awesome.
Those of those of us that can work in the survey questions, we can stay. It's a little bit over time. We have to be careful with saying thank you for joining today. I think I will stay and a few of us should stay and just finish this up. Is that okay for everyone? John, I'm just trying to help here.
Yeah, I mean, anyone that wants to stay on can stay on while we finish this off. But same bad time, same bad channel for next week for those of you that are going to drop off.
Oh, next week the clock change, right? Same.
We didn't decide on that.
Same time for you.
Let's do that in the group. Sorry, in the Google group.
Yep, I already started at +1 to 11 o'clock. So let's vote there.
Okay. How does that work?
So you just saying yes and no, right? For
Would be a
this,
binary vote, yes, no.
right? Okay.
Allow projects to migrate from JavaX to Jakarta namespace. Projects meaning component specs.
Projects. Sorry.
Let's crash
okay.
Let's just cross or kill the questions that nicely Emily created, like cross them.
Okay, hold on. Let's focus exclusively on this text.
This sounds okay to me.
Well, I mean, if the way I see it, if you vote yes, you're voting for the dual spec or the dual support model.
Do we want to say you may only deliver maintenance releases or what? This would be this.
I don't think so. Like I know MicroProfile Health is already ready.
Well, yeah. So I just figured, but we are saying
I
that
don't know.
people can move forward, right, with the JavaX Jakarta namespace, and it will be delivered when it's delivered.
For this one, like yeah, it doesn't say whether you maintain both.
Well,
It says you can.
It says
I
when you
said
say
it
additional.
doesn't say you.
Oh,
You
okay.
have freedom to maintain
Freedom,
both.
yes. Freedom.
Can we add what John said is like desires? I am still thinking that can we do it in 2021? We have no idea.
Well, that's why I changed the words to begin migration.
Okay. Begin. That's yeah.
Also, it's a spec can decide. They can like for example, MicroProfile config needed by the GNoSQL for Jakarta namespace. Like some spec can go ahead to do the Jakarta namespace change if they want, right? So basically, the MicroProfile umbrella release can then decide when to kind of do a 5.0 release. It doesn't say in this question. It doesn't say whether we are going to have the 5.0 release or not.
It's not tied to any release on purpose, just so we leave ourselves some flexibility.
I don't know. I look into this, and it seems that we're running into circles. I mean, we discussed this several times, several occasions, and we got into a situation where we agreed that having like this dual model will be like a bad thing because it's gonna be like a lot of work for us. But again, we are proposing this to be.
I can change it back to
yes.
June if you want.
No. I mean, I'm asking because
propose alternate language, please.
I mean, the alternate language will be that we have to cut the final line in some way, in the sense that once you have the Jakarta migration complete, or maybe you can say, I'm not sure. Well, this is the idea. Once you have a MicroProfile Jakarta migration done, then there is a freeze and there is no more development on the JavaX namespace.
How about if we say something like MicroProfile specification projects are expected to begin migration in 2021? I
feel like this kind of is not clear.
Because the way where I read this, it says, okay, projects begin migration JavaX to Jakarta namespace 2021. That's okay. Implementation work may not result in release of MicroProfile 2021. Okay, and then additional specification projects may continue to deliver JavaX-based specifications. For me, this opens the door to have like these dual release cycles and these dual branches cycles that we want to avoid.
And don't forget, we as a steering committee, right? Steering committee members can vote down the release plan, right? So if people begin to try introducing the dual approach, it will include a discussion that may or may not allow it to continue, right?
But that's bad though, John. If we send out a message and then the kind of the spec group and then followed this advice and then been shut down by the working group, that's really bad though. They have done hard work and follow this advice, and then working group, so sorry, you can't do it.
Well, what I'm referring to is it's kind of a forcing function to avoid the dual release strategy.
But I think it's maybe it's better to do a kind of prototype for the dual functionality. I think it's with the Open Liberties approach about the Jakarta and JavaX namespace with the Eclipse transformer is not a huge amount of work. I think it's kind of Roberto. I think it's we will work together to see how much work involved. Like we take one spec and then try it out to see the kind of support both namespace is how much work involved.
Well, I mean,
How does this work, guys? I mean, like, so I added the until the migration is complete. And then I put a specific note that dual delivery is not part of this plan. I'll just say dual delivery is not part of this plan.
No, that seems better.
I just feel like with this, I don't know how much value we are trying to get. So this is pretty much try it out. We're not committing anything, right?
Well, we're trying to be sensitive to the fact that people have said they don't have a lot of, they would need more time and help to get us actually across the finish line. So we're trying to get an ability to move forward with the JavaX namespace, but not pin it down to it has to be done by this date. But somehow still be firm that we're not intending to backtread on this decision and get in the path of maintaining two branches long term.
Right.
So it's a really tricky language to nail down.
You said until the JavaX to Jakarta migration fully complete.
Well, there is, I mean,
mean?
forget about the question for now, and let's talk some details. So, you're talking about the timeline. So let's forget about the time, because when you're doing something, you have either scope, time, and effort, right? So we have here time and effort. So we remove time, we still have the effort, right? So if we want to move this forward, that's fine. It will mean that all the effort will still pushed on us, and we'll have this complete when we have that complete. And then we don't need to go around in circles by pushing this forward. So if we want to decide, hey, let's do the migration, let's do it. But then we'll just deliver it whenever we can. And that's it.
That's what's written. Is that's, I mean, again, we're trying to look down.
Yes, but I don't think if that's what we want to move forward, I don't think that we really need to go around in circles and then push this vote to the committers. It just, we'll do it as a working group vote, like John was saying.
No,
No. Let's have a we'll have a vote, and first of all, anyway, we'll have a vote. We already, when we started the working group, we committed to trying to make everything be a community vote as much as possible. And I think it's very important that we don't need to be arguing whether that should be a working group vote or a committer vote at this point. We just need the language. It's probably going to pass, but in order for us to stop going in circles, we need to actually put a stake in the sand.
Okay, and if it fails, what we'll do? Because everyone is
We'll
assuming
deal
that
with
this will pass.
We'll deal with it if it fails.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not deal with it when it fails. We need to plan accordingly in both situations. It's just not, oh, we're just going to deal with that when it comes, because we're trying to push a particular language.
All right.
So
You're
we're
15 significantly. There's no forward movements. Every time we try to make a forward step, you try to say.
I'm not trying. I already say let's just move forward and stop running into circles. But,
okay. So you don't want any change to that language.
No. Once you put the decision in someone else's hands, then it may not come into the solution that you want. Right?
We are the community. We're the committers. We're not somebody else's hands. It's our hands.
Yes, and we want to know the committers' votes. We need that.
We don't add committers willy-nilly. We don't even have that many. There's like 40 of them. They work for the majority of the companies who are on this, so it's not a real big deal.
Right. Let's cut it short. Are we happy with the first sentence?
No, wait a minute. There's still a disconnect that people are not accepting. So there's an issue between what should be the focus relative to 2021 in migrating specs to Jakarta versus JavaX. The secondary issue that I think John is trying to bring up in terms of the efficacy or the function of the working group is that this vote cannot commit vendors to IP lock-in. All this vote can do is set what the community views as a direction. Ultimately, for a plan, a release plan that actually has a date, requires a working group vote. And that's the point in time where you're committing resources.
You nailed it, Scott.
Right.
You
We have
The reality is, this is all you can say at this point is that this is a focus, but it's not guaranteeing any deliverable.
That's right.
Yes. Beautifully.
That's all the point that's being argued.
Mhm. Perfect.
We're
Scott,
saying that doesn't really guarantee anything other than that there's a focus.
But that's enough. That's a step forward, right? And so,
Step, but it doesn't give users anything. There is no roadmap to deliverables.
that is correct. This is not a MicroProfile version X, plan review. This is let's get started, so we don't have to. So we at least don't have to argue intent anymore, right? We can at least agree on intent.
Mhm. Can we do both no?
Well,
the other one.
Let John, you were trying to speak.
Yeah, so from a roadmap perspective, to answer that, because I actually agree we do need to provide users some sense of guidance, right? Is it acceptable? And I know we want to definitely shy away from dual work. Is it acceptable to have a MicroProfile release sometime this year that delivers incremental work on 4.1? And I'm not even saying it has to be a lot, right? Like, I do think health is relatively close, if I recall correctly. So we could have something in 4 that provides guidance that we're planning a 4.x release while we work on 5.
Yeah, it's there.
I hope I'm stating that correctly, that it's about ready, because that's my understanding, is it's getting close.
I put that there specifically so we don't get into the business. If we're not going to say when we're going to cut over, we can't say when we're going to stop delivering on JavaX, right? So we just need to agree on our intent. Our intent is we're going to go that direction this year. Meanwhile, as that's highlighted sentences says, the show still continues to move forward.
Yeah, but we are not committing to any, to be honest, any release time, even time frame by this statement for the Jakarta namespace.
That's right.
We're working toward it.
Yep.
That-
And it said it nicely as well.
Right.
But it might be in 2 months we'll have a better picture, or,
Right.
or 3 months or whatever.
It at least gives everybody the ability to start. It says we all agree that this is, we had a lot of conversations on whether or not we thought it was something we should even do at all, right? And so at least we can put a stake in that sand. And when we actually have to do a release plan, which we will have to do, that's our opportunity to firm this up a little bit more.
Sorry, I had myself on mute. I don't mean to push a 4.x release of MicroProfile health too hard, right? When I'm just trying to show is that there's, if we want to, there is a path to a roadmap to, for developers.
I mean, until there is a release on a Jakarta compatible, you can do as many JavaX releases as you want, right? You can even do like a Jakarta release on MicroProfile 10 and have what you have written here, right? And you have all the other versions to do JavaX namespace, JavaX innovation stuff, right? But once you hit a release that has the Jakarta namespace change, then no other JavaX innovation or work should happen.
Unless we have another discussion and vote. We still can do that. It's just.
Yeah, well, that's always the case. And by the way, we don't have Dmitry on, right, from last week's discussion, who provided, I don't know if we're necessarily too far away from where he was with this. And Ed, I don't know if you have a thought, if you're still on. I know Ed Brett was on earlier.
He's on.
I'm still here.
Okay, if you ever thought around, this discussion that we're having.
I'm mostly just waiting for the answer here. So we'll decide how we deal with it. Sorry.
Oracle is also
Sorry.
part of the answer, right?
Yes.
Just
Right.
an
Yeah,
FYI.
I mean, like,
Okay.
Scott, I asked you a favor. Can you please add? You worded it so nicely when you spoke about the need for them, the vote to go to committers. Can you add something? Send survey to below that. What the survey means, because we need to write that out so that the committers, when they get the survey, they know exactly what's what. I have written, where do we send the survey here? To the committers, and then we will forward the update saying this is happening to the community. The committers are asked to vote, and this is what happens. Can you do that, Scott?
Yeah, okay. I'll find the link and update it.
Yeah, update it below the send the survey. There, what it means, because we need to add that to the survey, so it explains everyone that will not listen to this hour and a half what's what. You said it so nicely. I cannot do it justice. And thank you.
By the way, I don't feel you should put a due delivery is not part of this plan. I think if one spec want to maintain both branch, they have the right, every single right to do so.
And I apologize for interrupting everybody. I have to drop, but I made David co-host, so it should continue recording until David ends the meeting.
okay.
So just an FYI. Sorry about that.
I see the buttons. So yeah, I agree, Emily. I'm just trying to make sure that we're not making this a plan to do dual delivery. If people want to do that, that would be a separate discussion and vote. Does that make, let me share the screen.
I don't really think you should have a result into another vote. So just saying due delivery is not part of this plan, and then the spec team can have a freedom to do so.
How about discussion or vote?
I feel like they can go ahead to do it. They have every reason to do it. I don't think they should launch a new discussion or vote. So I just saying it's not part of plan. However, the spec committee can do this. If they have the for me, for example, if I work on one spec and I use Liberty to do both Jakarta X, Jakarta and Java X, I get all the compliance all passed, etc. Why is I have to go through extra miles to get the MicroProfile group and to approve? I already have done some hard work. Why is I have to explain myself and to get a bless or something like that?
Yeah, but I think we need to ask the question, how many vendors implementations will support both versions?
But the thing is that they have every right not to support every single release of MicroProfile. We have the 5.0 release of Folder X. Maybe one vendor, they just support Folder X. That's fine. And then another vendor might support both 5.0 and Folder X.
But this doesn't really. Sorry, go Scott.
You're talking about two levels of release. The MicroProfile configuration and all specification projects should be able to do whatever they want and propose release. But it's a separate issue to then have a platform release that incorporates those changes. I think really what we should, this phrase about dual delivery is not a part of the plan should only be applying to the platform specs, not the individual specs.
Yeah, that I agree with that. So basically, the component spec can do whatever they want, and the platform spec can, and then we vote whether we want to do the both 4.x, 5.x. Like for example, for tolerance, for example, we do a 3.1 release and then 4.1 release. However, maybe the MicroProfile just a 4.x, just pull in the for tolerance 3.1, and then there's no MicroProfile 5.x release. That's fine.
But what do you understand by dual delivery? Is that, are you going to, so a spec is allowed to backport things coming from Jakarta namespace into the JavaX namespace? Because that's what we're talking about here. That's what I understand on dual delivery.
So when I say dual delivery, which means, for example, config, we do like config 2 currently is JavaX, and then we create another branch config 3. So that's the only change is change the import from JavaX to Jakarta. All the other things
Yes.
the same. And then if we add one feature in like config 2.1, and then is kind of we add the same feature in the config 3.
No, okay, that's what I'm not that's what I not agree.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that's the dual delivery again, and that's what
No,
we're trying to avoid.
Right. That's
And
can I raise
and
up? Yeah, I agree. So I agree with you, Roberto. So the reason I'm saying that this is a sentence, I don't know why. This sentence is trying to say that this big topic of delivering dual versions of all the specifications is a big topic and it needs to be discussed in its own right. That's what I'm trying to communicate with this language. And I appreciate, Emily, you don't want it to be discussed in its own right, but obviously you hear feedback from Roberto saying he would want there to be discussion because he doesn't necessarily agree. And since we do need to have some agreement, because otherwise we will keep going in circles, we need to carve out enough that we can say we're forward. If we want to, the most important thing for us to get accomplished is that we agree we want to start switching to the Jakarta namespace this year. The whole vote is the first sentence. And these other sentences are trying to give everyone comfort to vote for the first sentence, which is basically, we're going to start doing the switch. We want to get some agreement that we start doing the switch. So if there's anything that's a controversial topic, it needs to be left out of the vote so it can continue to be debated. Do people agree with that?
Yeah, okay, but I agree what Emily says, in the sense that what should we disallow that, for instance, if Emily wants to do all the work on her own around the config API, the config implementation on both namespaces, should we disallow that?
Well, first of all,
it's not addressed by this. So the answer, Rudy, is not. There is no answer to that question in this vote. It's not explicitly allowed or disallowed.
Yeah, because you say would be accomplished with a separate discussion. So by saying yes, I vote for that first bullet means that you don't allow it because you need a separate discussion about it.
We would still need to, hold on, Rudy. How is that different than our current status quo that we would still need to discuss it?
Well, I agree that what you say for the delivery, for that there will no dual deliver for the entire platform, but for individual specifications, I don't see the problem, and I don't see even the need to discuss this.
Again, people are objecting to the concept, and I'm not. So I'm simply saying that the discussion should happen. If people want to discuss it,
but so that means that we are now saying that some work cannot be done by individual specifications.
Well, okay, but that statement is ignoring the fact that specifications are composed of more than one person. So even at specification project level, there can be disagreement.
Again, correct. But what if
ultimately there has to be a vote of the working group, which includes all vendors, as to whether or not even the individual specifications see the light of day. I mean, basically all you're talking, we're not to the level of talking about that you can't create a branch and do whatever the hell you want. That's a given. But going to the next step and actually releasing the specification, TCK and implementation, that's a candidate for inclusion into some other platform or consumed by some other vendor is a separate topic.
Including the platform, yes. Releasing a spec and the TCK and all the rest, I don't think that's up for discussion.
It is up for discussion because this is the whole point of making this a specification project versus open source. That is, voting for a specification is upping the bar for every single vendor in this community relative to IP rights. That is the fundamental issue. If you don't believe in that, we shouldn't have a specification project.
We didn't have a choice on that one, but
We didn't have a choice. We wouldn't have a working group.
We can just throw our dice with players.
Yeah, anyway, so everybody, you're hearing consternation about the dual delivery. We've been spending the last 15 minutes talking about dual delivery. So obviously the conversation is going to happen whether or not we want it to happen, right?
Should happen.
Can we agree? Can we agree that this is something that people want to discuss?
Yes.
They either want to do it or they want to discuss it. Either way, it's gonna slow our ability to just get a simple stake in the sand. So I'm trying to leave that discussion still open, and I appreciate that people would like to have it closed, but obviously there's feedback that it can't be closed yet. I'm not trying to be the one to close the topic. I'm trying to make sure the topic can still occur.
But this wording now is not addressed, is better than before. Because before it was a discussion and vote, now it's just addressed. So that's milder and better, I assume.
Okay. Yeah. Is that better for everybody?
Yeah, I think Rudy has a point.
Again, I'm trying to get language that we can agree with, so that because we do have areas where we do agree, right? So I'm trying to capture those areas where we agree, while leaving the areas where we don't agree still open for conversation.
So I just have a conscience about time, but I think with this sentence, the whole things here, I'm not sure what expectation you will send to the spec groups. So we are saying okay, allow them to migrate, and then the kind of the what with this if the majority says yes, what's the next action?
Then
what kind of outcome we are trying to get?
Then people will be allowed then the specifications are allowed to start shifting over.
So yeah, they are allowed, and then they may not. So basically it's the kind of all the spec, yeah, I am allowed, but I choose not to. So we all stay put with JavaX by the end of 2021. Nobody make a move.
Emily, again, let's not box on time. We might not have it completed in 2021, and this is not going to be linked to any major release. So please don't revert back to a date, because when I see you being concerned about it, it makes me wonder if we understood the conversation of an hour ago. We need to be so careful. Please, let's
focus on language. Focus on language. So Emily, does this sound a little bit better? That we're agreeing that it's the desire for us to begin the migration from the JavaX to Jakarta namespace in 21.
Yeah, it's in 2021. The only thing is I'm trying to challenge this. Is allowed to kind of begin migration 2021. So my concern is, okay, we send this message and eventually nobody kind of going to do anything. So, and then it's kind of waste time.
Well,
if that happens, then we learn and fail fast, because if the committers are not willing to do their work, then migrating to Jakarta EE is going to be a bigger concern, because if we as community cannot adapt the technology, that says it all, right? So then it's a reflection of us, because the committers are the ones who get to help on this, and contributors too. We have Emerson, who has been helping us, and a few other contributors. So we shouldn't be projecting onto them. I want to see personally.
How about this, MicroProfile?
Do the work. Can we trust that we will do the work and get there, because we shouldn't be projecting on these fears.
So I think at least we should say like I don't know how to phrase it. Basically, we should aim, at least aim, shoot for something, right? If like I do some plan myself with this, at least I said, oh gosh, I'm running out of time. With this, I said, okay, that's fine. That's kind of wishful thinking. I'm not going to do anything. So if we say MicroProfile platform release aim, kind of.
No, we cannot.
Well, hold on. Stop, Amelia. Stop.
All right, you go, guys.
Stop screaming at people no in the middle of their sentences.
Sorry about that.
That's not acceptable.
I am saying we cannot add a date, Emily.
She didn't give a date, and I didn't hear her whole sentence.
Go ahead. Sorry, Emily.
So if we say, okay, it's a kind of, we have expectation, like if we say we aim to have some, like how much percent of the specification to do the migration, at least have one to migrate from JavaX to Jakarta. So basically, it's, if we just have these loose kind of things, it's not measurable, and kind of it's eventually will get ignored because the spec group is saying, okay, yeah, allowed, but I choose not to.
Yeah, well, so as I changed it from allowed to microprofile specification projects should begin migration from the JavaX to Jakarta namespace in 2021. So that's the primary sentence. And then, we can like make this one be we can just make that like a,
yeah,
like that, so that this is the clear sentence that we're voting on.
Right. Okay. If we just vote that kind of thing.
And we include this in this text in the vote, right?
Yeah.
And then if it's a committer vote, see the perks of it being a committer vote is that it's all the committers who have to do this work.
Mm-hmm.
So if the majority of committers vote yes, we have some assurance that the committers will do the work. If the majority of committers don't vote yes, then we know people are not planning to do this work. So that's the real advantage of having it be a committer vote versus a, say, like steering committee vote. We'll get one vote per organization, but that doesn't necessarily reflect the will of the people who will actually have to do the work. So those fears about people not actually doing the work would be real, right?
Right.
If we ask the people who actually have to do the work, what do you think this is something that we should do? And they say yes, we got a pretty good hope that that's going to be the case. It may take a while, but we at least would have an indication that the people doing the work want to do the work, this work specifically.
The incentive will be there, and you can come back on that when people are actually not delivering later. So it's a formal incentive that you can hold people against you. You promised to at least work on it, but you aren't. Why not?
I'm sorry, I disagree with that. I mean, even if I vote yes, I cannot be persuaded later to say, oh, you vote yes on this, so you have, because it just says that I have to start migration, so I can just like push a pull request that does like a change on a class, and that's it. And hey, I start the migration, and I'm only finish this in 2030, right?
That's fine. If you want to be,
yeah, sure. But what I'm saying is that we cannot use this as like a formal thing to have compromise on the commuters, right? Because we have commuters that are working for vendors that and this is their own. They do this on their work time. We also have people that use this on their own free time. As you know, on open source, you cannot push people or to try to alienate them in some way, saying, "Oh, you compromise with this," right? Because
well, that's why there's no timeline on there, right? So it's you with your commit and everything you know about your job and everything about about your own interests, you vote +1 or not.
Sure, but what I'm saying is that we cannot just pick this up and then point it to people's faces. You say if they don't do the work, oh, you vote +1 and didn't do the work, right?
No one will say, no one will do that. I do not know how that happened that we went into this
Well,
application.
Edwin mentioned it, but anyway, you know, what we're trying to do is get a shared sense of consensus about some portion of this topic, right? So if we can't actually agree that that's a goal, then we should stop talking.
Listen, I mean, I think that it's pretty clear that everyone wants to go with the Jakarta namespace change.
And it
I
shouldn't
think
be
no one disagrees on this.
I don't know about that, but it shouldn't be difficult to vote on this.
No. What I'm saying is that I'm not even putting on a year because you have a year over there. So what I believe is everyone agrees that the Jakarta namespace should happen. Now, what we are disagreeing or we don't able to agree is the timeline, which is a different matter. So right now we're just setting up a timeline to start in 2021. Some people may think that they want to start when Jakarta 10 starts up. So what we're disagreeing on just timelines. It's not the migration itself. And I'm not disagreeing on 2021. What I'm saying, I was saying something a bit different, but what I think is everyone agrees that the Jakarta namespace should happen. Now they have different feelings or different ideas on when that should happen. And that's where people disagree. And that's where the real issue is. So that's the first point. The second one is how does this should happen? So one is when, another is how. It's not if it should happen or not, because I think we all agree that this should happen. It's just when and how. And those are the hard questions that we need to answer.
Right.
We cannot answer that question.
So this gets us to basically now, right? That people are allowed.
Well, what this vote does is just a confirmation. It's a confirmation that we want to move forward, but
Right.
It's still not going to answer the when and how.
Well, okay.
And I mean, I'm not saying that it needs to answer this because I know where you're going with this. But
we started with the proposal that had a when, and you were the one who objected, and we backed away from when to simply saying 2021. And now you're saying that the proposal is too vague.
No. I'm not saying. I mean, stop putting words in my mouth.
Those are the words I'm hearing from your mouth. So
you're not hearing. What I say is just like a clear fact on what this question is doing. I was not saying that I want an answer on when or how. I just said that we need to answer those questions, and these doesn't answer them. That's all.
I just want to point out that Kevin, John, myself, at least Kevin and John and I cringed. I cringed on the dates. I will be very uncomfortable adding a month to 2021.
Yeah, I don't propose that we should. So so the most specific date we have is not June, but simply 2021.
Yes.
Right.
And
that's not the when. At least it's a when that's not 2022 or 2023. It's a when that's this year. So
yes.
that's a step forward. So do we want this vote or not?
That's okay. And the reason why I was bringing it up is because Emily has a concern because she's okay with starting this, but she also wants to finish it as quickly as possible. And that's something that this vote doesn't answer her question. It doesn't have to, because we're not going to agree on that right now.
Implementations will affect that, right? If implementations, if all the spec projects make the switch and implementations show up for all of this stuff, well, we're probably going to ship that.
So
we do the number 2 is 12:45, 12:46. I haven't eaten breakfast or lunch. I'm exhausted, and we're going circular, and we're not being.
Emily, what's your final feedback? Do you want to give some final thoughts?
So I think is first thing I think we need to say 2021. So give a kind of the clear timeline. For the how bit, I think the spec group will be able to should work among themselves to see whether they continue work with JavaX or they directly switch to Jakarta namespace. So maybe they have a freedom. Again, the due delivery is kind of the one option. So again, that would be discussed among the the spec group themselves, right? I think it's kind of I think I don't have objections to ask the committer kind of to vote and etc. However, I think is kind of this is pretty much kind of is common sense. People want to do the migration.
Emily, we cannot. Yeah, but Emily, we cannot assume. We need the committers to vote. And Scott explain what does the vote means and what it means when vendors like organizations vote. We need to be super careful on and this is the most important question on the three we have asked.
Right. I as I said, I don't have an objection. I said that this is kind of common sense.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I've expanded this to try to say that this is more urgent than, at the end of the year, just say a +1 vote confirms that intent and allows specification projects to immediately begin conversion.
That's even better.
Everybody's unblocked, basically, as soon as this vote happens.
Can we do question no? And we can just say no to yes. Can we?
I'll handle the +1, -1 stuff. It's just, it's going to be Apache style vote where you just vote +1, -1, -1.
Yeah,
Right.
Agree.
So
Just one question.
Right. Also saying veto note is not so there's a no veto vote, right?
It's a simple majority of the committers.
Right. Just saying that. Just saying the condition.
So 7 days. Oh, Emily, I wrote it up there. You already have it. Bello, you already have it. 7 days vote, +1, -1, 0.
And it also says there's a no veto vote.
Well, yeah, you did.
Simple, did you say simple majority? Yeah.
A simple majority.
Yeah.
In 0. Yeah.
There we go.
And Emily, Emily, there is an email that you need to send that to the survey to.
You don't need to send any. Stop changing topics. Let's close this. Is this text good for everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Emily?
Yeah.
Roberto? Fine.
Ed? Okay, Ed's not around, but.
No, he's here, but.
Sorry, I'm here. Sorry.
Does that text look good for you?
Yes.
Scott, Rudy.
Rudy said yes already. He was the first one.
Edwin.
What about Emerson?
Guys, for me.
Any objections? All right, we're done. We can wrap this up.
What?
So for the next step, so are you, David, you are going to send to the mailing list, right?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and send this out, and then we'll have a community vote on the list. And
don't say community because it confuses everyone. I'm thinking committers.
Committer vote. We'll have a committer vote.
Yes.
People who are not committers can vote, but their vote won't be binding.
Yes.
Can you also note down there is vote run is a kind of simple majority, yeah, and then commit like what is a community vote
right there,
welcome the more not binding.
Yeah.
One thing that needs to happen is that sometimes, because we have 1,200 plus members in the community, the email that I have given here must be added in the to of that email because it will notify every MicroProfile committer. We want to reach everyone. So I am asking, please use that email to send the votes. so that it reaches every committer.
I'm
We-
sorry, I was typing and not listening. So what were you saying?
Do you see the send survey to committers in the upper side and the upper side below the what do you think MicroProfile release in 2021 should be? That email needs to be added. You can add it into CC, you can be CC, it doesn't matter, but it must be added to the update.
When did we end up with the MicroProfile-dev list?
That is the one that we use for nominating committers. Use it to nominate
So-
new profilers. That is the committer's email. And if
Why
you didn't
didn't we
have,
have a? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We have 3 mailing lists now.
no, that has been always present since January 2017. It's the committer's mailing list that we only use.
I was just going to use the Google group.
You use the Google group. I mean,
Yeah.
It's just
That's our
confusing
primary
people.
list. Yeah, let's stop making it. We got to get off this call and stop making this complicated. So
Yeah.
this language is fine. No one will die. We'll have we have all of our work on the Google group list. This will be where we have the vote, and it will be done.
Yeah.
All right.
We will medium. Yeah, it's good. Let's
All right.
rest.
I am going to wrap up the call, put my John hat on. I didn't wear that very well at all. He would have wrapped this up much sooner. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. I'm glad we got the language nailed down. So I'll wrap up our community call, and thanks everybody for hanging out this last additional hour.
Mhm.
Okay.
Super excited. We did it.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.